They laughed when I showed up to the family dinner in an Uber. Little did they know, I was the one who owned the mansion they passed on the way in. My cousin whispered, "She still doesn't have her own place," while my aunt smirked and offered me leftover salad like I was a stray. I sat there, humiliated, watching my brother, Ethan, get praised like a prince just for existing. Collision. Before we go deeper, if you've ever been underestimated by your own family, hit subscribe and share this video. Someone needs to hear this. Collision. I forced a smile as my uncle raised a toast to the golden boy, talking about how Ethan would soon get the house our grandfather left behind. The house I once dreamed of living in when I had nothing but a backpack and 2 part-time jobs. No one even looked my way. "Sophia, you're still renting, right?" Aunt Karen asked, pretending to be concerned. I nodded. No one needed to know. I was renting out 3 apartments and living in one they couldn't afford even if they pooled their salaries. Ethan leaned back, smug. "Maybe we can let her stay in the guest room once I move in," he joked. Everyone laughed. I laughed too. But inside, my blood boiled. They had no idea that 2 years ago, I started my real estate hustle in silence. No handouts, no loans, just sleepless nights, cold calls, and deals I closed while working a cashier shift. I never posted about it. Never told anyone. Because I knew, they wouldn't clap until it benefited them. As dessert came out, the conversation turned serious. "So," my dad said, "we've decided to transfer Grandpa's house to Ethan officially. He's responsible. He deserves it." "Really?" I asked quietly. "That's interesting." Mom looked up, frowning. "You don't need a house, Sophia. You barely make rent. It's better this way." I didn't argue. I didn't defend myself. I just sipped my water and smiled. Because they didn't know something that was about to change everything. And then Ethan said something that made my fork freeze midair: "We might actually renovate it. But only if Sophia gives us the green light." "Why me? What green light?" I looked at him, and he smirked, knowing what I knew, and what no one else at that table did. The room fell into a strange silence. Everyone stared at Ethan, confused. My mom blinked. "What do you mean if Sophia gives the green light? Why would she need to approve anything?" Ethan leaned forward, folding his hands like he was presenting at some board meeting. "Because," he said with a smug grin, "she technically bought the house 3 weeks ago." You could have heard a pin drop. "What?" my uncle snapped. "She what?" My aunt nearly choked on her pie. My heart pounded, but not from fear. From the rush of watching every smug expression around me melt into disbelief. I turned slowly and said, "I made an offer the day it was listed. Cash. Quick close. It's already under my name." "But, that house was never listed publicly." Mom shouted. I nodded. "Exactly. Because I bought it before it hit the market." My dad's face turned red. "You don't have that kind of money, Sophia. Don't lie." Ethan shook his head. "She's not lying." I didn't know either, until the realtor mentioned her name on the title deed during my call. That's when I realized, she beat us to it. Now they looked like the broke ones, but how? Mom's voice cracked. "You were always struggling." I looked her straight in the eyes. "You assumed I was struggling." I never said I was. You just saw what you wanted to see. My cousin Lindsay whispered, "Wait, are you rich?" I wouldn't say that. I smiled. "But I'm not poor either. I just chose to stay quiet while I built everything you said I never could." My aunt scoffed. "That house was meant for family. How could you do this to Ethan?" I laughed once, cold and sharp. "Family? You mean the same family that mocked me every holiday dinner? That told me I was wasting my life? That made me sit at the kids' table when I was 27? My dad slammed his glass on the table. "You've made your point. Return the house. It was never meant for you." That's when I stood up slowly, pulled out my phone, and placed it on the table, on speaker. "Hey, Mr. Langston? Yeah, it's Sophia." I smiled at them. "Go ahead and tell them." The voice came through clear. "Yes, the property at 382 Maple Drive is legally owned by Sophia Reed. She closed early. And she just requested to revoke all renovation permissions." Ethan's jaw clenched. "You're blocking me from touching that house?" I stared at him. "You wanted to humiliate me. Now I own the thing you were bragging about." "But it's Grandpa's house." Mom cried. "And you tried to give it to someone else like I didn't exist," I replied. "I just made sure it stayed in the hands of someone who actually earned It. That's when Dad leaned in, eyes sharp, voice low. What exactly do you own, Sophia? Where is all this money coming from? I smiled. You sure you want to know? Because what I was about to reveal next would destroy every lie they believed about me. Dad's question hung in the air like smoke after a fire. Where is all this money coming from, Sophia? Everyone leaned in, waiting for me to crack, to admit it was a fluke, some lottery ticket or inheritance. But what I said next? It flipped their world upside down. I built a real estate business, I said. Calmly. While you all mocked me for working late shifts, I was buying, flipping, and renting properties. Quietly. Efficiently. And now, I own 7 across the city. Mom blinked fast, like the words didn't compute. You? Real estate? Since when? Since the day Ethan told me I'd never make it without a man backing me. My brother looked away, jaw tight. And since the day you told me I was embarrassing the family with my unstable career, I added, staring directly at my dad. You didn't tell anyone? Lindsay gasped. No, I said flatly. Because the second I succeed, this family finds a way to make it about them. Just like you're doing now. But Sophia, Ethan said through gritted teeth, I already told all my friends I was moving in. You don't need Grandpa's house. I also didn't need to be humiliated for years, Ethan, I shot back. But you did that anyway. Didn't you? He stood up, voice rising. You bought it just to spite me. No, I said, slowly rising to meet his glare. I bought it because I could. And because no one else saw its value until I claimed it. Dad suddenly chuckled. Bitterly. You're turning against your own family. What does that say about you? It says, I replied, that I learned from the best. You all turned against me first. A pause. Then I pulled a folder from my purse and placed it on the table. What's that? Mom asked nervously. Proof. I said. Property titles. Tax returns. Investment portfolios. Everything you thought I'd never have. All built without asking you for a single cent. The air thickened. Silence spread like poison, and then, as if twisting the knife, I added. One last thing, by the way. That scholarship fund Ethan applied for last month. I smirked. It's privately sponsored. Through my company. He froze. You're the one funding it? Yep, I nodded. Which means I decide who gets approved. The blood drained from his face. You've got to be kidding me, Aunt Karen muttered. You wanted me invisible, I said, standing taller than ever. Now I'm the one writing checks, signing approvals, and owning homes you thought belonged to you. Dad stood, slamming his napkin down. This isn't over, Sophia. I know, I said with a calm smile. That's what scares you. But just when I thought I'd won, someone stood up who hadn't spoken all evening, and what she revealed nearly broke me. Just as I turned to leave, feeling the quiet satisfaction of finally being seen, her voice stopped me cold. Sophia. I need to tell you something. It was my cousin Lindsay. Soft-spoken. Always on the sidelines. Never cruel. Like the others, but never on my side either. I turned, confused. Her hands were trembling. They didn't just plan to give Ethan the house, she said, voice barely holding steady. They planned to challenge the will. They knew Grandpa left the house to you. He changed it a month before he died. The room exploded. What the hell are you talking about? My mom snapped. Lindsay stood, hands shaking. I overheard Dad and Uncle Tom at the lawyer's office. Grandpa didn't leave it to Ethan. He left it to Sophia. But they didn't tell anyone. They thought if they moved fast and kept it quiet, they could transfer it before Sophia ever found out. My stomach dropped. You're lying. Aunt Karen screamed. No, she's not, I whispered, as puzzle pieces slammed into place. That's why the listing agent rushed the paperwork. That's why no one wanted me involved. They knew. Lindsay looked at me, eyes full of guilt. I wanted to say something sooner, but they told me if I opened my mouth, they'd cut me off too. I turned to my dad. You hid Grandpa's final wishes from me? He didn't flinch. You didn't deserve it. You walked away from this family. I took a deep breath, voice low and shaking. No. I walked away from the abuse, the manipulation, the mockery. I walked away so I could survive. Ethan exploded. So what now, huh? You get the house, the money, the power. What are you gonna do, throw us all out? I haven't decided, I said honestly. But I do know one thing, Grandpa trusted me with that home. You tried to steal it. And now, everyone knows the truth. Mom stood, pointing at Lindsay. You ruined this. You betrayed your own blood. No, Lindsay said, chin lifting. You did. Years ago. You just didn't think it would come back to bite you. Ethan stepped toward me, eyes furious. If you think you've won, Sophia, you haven't seen what I'm capable of. I held my ground. No, Ethan, you haven't seen what I've become. And then I turned to my dad. You always said I was nothing without this family. But now I realize I was nothing because of this family. As I walked out of that house, one last envelope slid across the table behind me. Inside it was something none of them saw coming, not even me. As I stepped outside, the night air hit different, lighter, like the weight of 1,000 family lies had finally lifted off my back, but just as I reached my car, I heard Lindsay yell behind me, Sophia, wait. You forgot this. She ran up, clutching a thick envelope, the one I'd seen my dad quietly slide across the table just before I left. Something told me to open it right there. I tore the flap and pulled out a letter. My chest tightened the moment I saw the handwriting. It was Grandpa's. The letter was dated just days before he passed. Sophia, if you're reading this, it means the house is finally yours, like I always intended. I watched how they treated you. I heard what they said when they thought I wasn't listening. But I saw your grit. Your fight. You reminded me of myself. I didn't leave this house to Ethan because he never earned it. I left it to you because you built yourself from nothing. You respected every dollar, every deal, every sacrifice. And that's what this house needs, someone who understands what real value looks like. I only regret one thing, not standing up for you more while I was alive. But maybe this house will say what I couldn't. My fingers trembled as I read the last line, own it with pride. And when they come begging, remember who you are now. Tears filled my eyes, but not from sadness, from vindication. Lindsay stood silently beside me. You earned this, Sophia. You really did. I looked up at her. Thank you for finally telling me the truth. She nodded. If you ever want a partner, someone to help you grow this empire quietly, I'm in. I smiled. We might just make a dangerous team. Back inside, the silence in that dining room had turned into panic. They knew they lost. But what hurt them more was realizing I never needed their permission to win. I got in my car, started the engine, and drove away from their crumbling lies, toward a life I'd built, brick by brick. In silence, they tried to write me off, they tried to erase me from the will, but in the end, I didn't just take back the house. I took back my power, and this time, they're the ones left out in the cold. Want more stories like this? Subscribe to Viral Secrets and share the victory.